6ix9ine's girl is gone, taken out cold, and the streets can't stop buzzing about it. Fresh footage just leaked showing him right before it all went down, and people are saying his own words might have lit the spark that got her caught up in a deadly play.
Nigga, all your dad homies, I don't give a who I'm talking about. All of them.
Talking about?
You ain't your dad homie.
August 17th, 2025 wasn't just another day. It was a straight-up tragedy that left the hip-hop world shook when the sun was barely creeping over the city skyline. Ariela Langosta, a 29-year-old Dominican beauty who was stacking clout as both an influencer and bartender, was discovered slumped in her ride on the cross-county parkway in Mount Vernon. The way she went out had everybody scratching their heads, but what had folks really talking was her link to one of rap's most controversial names, Tekashi 6ix9ine, and whether his wild moves put her life in the crossfire. To really get how deep this mess runs, we gotta break down who Ariela truly was out here in these streets. This wasn't just some random girl chasing likes with selfies. Ariela was a full-on vibe in New York's nightlife jungle. With 551,000 locked in on Instagram and another 115,000 rocking with her on TikTok, she turned her mix of wild charisma, dance content, and modeling shots into a brand that had people hooked. But behind the filters and flex, Ariela was knee-deep in the same nightlife web where rappers, hustlers, and influencers all collide, mixing clout, cash, and straight-up chaos under the same roof. Working behind the bar at heavy-hitter spots like Icon New York and Starlets, she was right in the middle of that glitz, glam, and non-stop beef that powers the city's elite party scene. These weren't your average clubs. These were pressure cookers, where celebs, internet stars, and street figures cross paths, turning cocktails into conflict real quick. And the wildest part? The night before her tragic end, August 16th, 2025, Ariela was still posting stories on IG, showing herself lit at Icon, the same club that wasn't just her stage for fun, but also where she clocked in to get her bread. The videos and flicks painted Ariela like she was living her best life, laughing, dancing, and glowing like nothing in the world could touch her. But the wild twist?
Bro.
Not surprised.
Told on his girl, bro.
Not surprised.
6ix9ine just about to tell on anybody, huh?
Yeah, come on.
Those posts turned out to be her last haunting snapshots of final moments before her life got snatched in the most tragic way. That's where things get real messy, sparking questions from investigators, fans, and haters.
What's your definition of a snitch? Let's start there.
A snitch is somebody, I feel like a snitch will do anything to get out of a situation. You know what I'm trying to say? Like a snitch will get faced with something and will just give up their mother, their brother, everybody, their whole camp just to be free.
All trying to connect the dots on what truly went down. To really grasp how deep this rabbit hole goes, you gotta look at 6ix9ine's track record with the feds, his history of flipping, cooperating, and moving suspicious whenever pressure hits becomes critical when breaking down his reaction to Ariela's murder. A clip from a No Jumper segment puts it plain as day, his instant jump to work with 12, even when it involved people he was supposed to be close with. The host's face said it all, showing exactly how the culture views that kind of behavior. Even 6ix9ine himself admitted it. His whole pattern of snitching stretches way past romance and right into the streets, shaping the way law enforcement sees him and how the block talks about him. Multiple videos highlight how the culture perceives his eagerness to spill info, and that detail becomes dangerous when you start piecing together why Ariela might have been the one to take those bullets. The connection between Ariela and Tekashi 6ix9ine has become the centerpiece of all this speculation, and for good reason. The nature of their bond is one of the most argued points in the whole case, with conflicting stories flying everywhere, from whispers of romance to claims they were nothing more than close friends. Some sources swear Ariela was 6ix9ine's girl, hinting at a secret relationship, while others point out that he often referred to her as his sister, framing it like a deep platonic bond instead. That confusion isn't random. It shows just how complicated and secretive relationships inside 6ix9ine's circle really are, where simply being linked to him in public can be as dangerous as it is revealing. What's undeniable, though, is that their connection went way deeper than casual friendship. Ariela popped up in the music video for his track Wapa, a collab with Angel Dior, Lanier, and Bolan 47, and it wasn't just a background cameo. Her presence lit up the screen, proving her charisma and giving her a concrete tie to his music world. Even more telling was when they hit the scene together in 2023 at the Toga Room in New York. That appearance wasn't just two friends hanging out, it showed they were moving together in nightlife spaces where everyone watches and talks. Public enough to spark chatter, but private enough to keep people guessing, their relationship blurred the line between friendship and something more, leaving the streets buzzing with questions. The timing of Ariela's death hits even harder when you stack it against 6ix9ine's legal mess in 2025. This wasn't the same rainbow-haired wildcard who once owned headlines with reckless stunts and viral antics. By this point, he was moving under strict restrictions that made any public sighting with Ariela both rare and risky as hell.
What I fold on though?
When you took the stand, or when you testified?
What I fold on?
When you snitched.
All right, so let me ask you something, son. If you was in that position, what you would have done?
For me, you gotta understand.
I don't answer the question.
I would never tell.
All right, so this is what I'm saying. If you was in that position, you would have did that, Tom?
After a 45-day bid in federal custody at the end of 2024 for violating supervised release, he got slapped with heavy probation. House arrest with an ankle monitor, no international travel, and a long list of legal hoops he couldn't afford to trip over. And just months before Ariela's tragic end, July 2025 brought even more heat. He pled guilty to drug charges after a March raid at his Florida spot turned up MDMA, cocaine, and other substances. Sentencing was locked in for September 2025, meaning his every move was being watched under a legal microscope. That paints a picture of a man boxed in where stepping foot into New York's nightlife wasn't just unlikely, it could have been catastrophic for his freedom. Yet despite those restrictions, Ariela's murder has become tangled up with his controversial past, his snitch label, and the long list of enemies he racked up while flipping from street-linked rapper to federal informant. In some unreleased footage, 6ix9ine even breaks down his mindset from the moment he chose to cooperate, and that clip only adds more fire to the theories circling around Ariela's fate. This clip doesn't just show 6ix9ine defending himself for cooperating with authorities, it shows him straight up daring others to say they wouldn't have done the same in his shoes. That mindset becomes key when asking if his ties to Ariela might have pulled her into dangerous waters. The evolution of Daniel Hernandez into Tekashi 6ix9ine and then into a full-on federal cooperating witness has been told over and over. But when you connect it to Ariela's murder, the relevance hits different. 6ix9ine's past as an informant mixed with the constant threats he's faced, including that chilling fake casket dropped at his Florida crib in February 2025 with rival King Von's name on it, has only fueled speculation that Ariela's death could have been retaliation.
Let me ask you something, and like I said, my respect to the West Coast. You never lacking, right?
Never.
So what happened to the niggas that lack? Let's bring up Nipsey Hussle. You think he said, yo, will never come up to me because I'm... Yo, bro, it happened to the best of them.
Yes,
Hold on.
You're absolutely right.
Hold on. So what you gonna say, Nipsey? Huh?
But here's where things really twist. This case isn't just about Ariela being linked to 6ix9ine. It's about a tangled web of rivalries, relationships, and motives that stretch way past one connection. And if you peep his interviews and comments closely, a pattern jumps out. Snitching wasn't a desperate one-time move. It looks more like his go-to play every time the heat came down. That consistent behavior, paired with the enemies it created, makes Ariela's tragedy feel less like random bad luck and more like fallout from the storm 6ix9ine built around himself. This pattern carries heavy weight when you think about how 6ix9ine's enemies might treat anybody close to him, including Ariela. As the boys in blue try to stitch together the circumstances around Ariela Langosta's death, a messy, layered narrative starts surfacing, one that goes way beyond a random hood shooting or mistaken identity. Let's break it down: the gossip, the street whispers, the wild theories. The speculation around this case plays out like a real-life street saga, with multiple narratives fighting for the spotlight, each one holding different clues to what may have really happened that tragic August morning. To get the full picture, you gotta start with 6ix9ine's own philosophy on street violence. In raw footage, he explains why his survival tactics, snitching, flipping, and doing whatever it takes, make him smarter than rappers who kept it real only to end up in a casket. His cold-blooded take: he'll use any means necessary, even the feds, to stay breathing, while mocking those who stuck to the code and paid the ultimate price. And here's where the most popular theory comes in, blowing up across socials, hip-hop blogs, and even global news outlets. Ariela wasn't the main target at all.
He's dead. But what's the point, though?
All right then. So King Von is a solid, and he got killed, right? Then poked out and put 5 in him, right? And he's dead, right? So King Von died lacking.
You hurt my feelings.
No. Hear what I'm saying?
May he rest in peace,
King
man.
Von died lacking. Nipsey died lacking. Pop Smoke died lacking.
Right.
Can't lack?
No, you can't.
All right.
Kill or be killed in these streets.
The word is she got caught in the crossfire, with the real mark being her alleged boyfriend, Nada Cartier. That theory flips the whole case on its head and drags even more names into the storm. According to reports, Nada Cartier is painted as a suspected gang leader with a rap sheet full of dirt, including robbery plays the streets call Joe Lopi. The details tied to this theory are specific, dark, and disturbing as hell. Word is, Ariela was driving a Mercedes G-Wagon with Cartier riding shotgun when she got bodied, yet Cartier walked away untouched. Even wilder are claims that she allegedly set up Colombians for Cartier to rob, which might have brought brutal retaliation her way. If that's true, the whole narrative flips, from being in the wrong place at the wrong time to being directly tied into moves that ended up getting her smoked. Cops confirmed they detained someone for questioning after the incident, and multiple sources fingered Cartier as that person. His background, prior arrests, and even irregular entry into the US only fuels the idea that he, not Ariela, was the real target of what looks more and more like a carefully executed hit. But here's the kicker: Cartier's involvement throws in another layer of complexity that mainstream coverage has barely touched. If Ariela was connected to both 6ix9ine and Cartier, it raises a dangerous question. Were those ties overlapping in ways that made her a target from more than one angle? The second major theory tearing through hip-hop media adds even more fuel: that Ariela wasn't just caught up in Cartier's drama, but in 6ix9ine's long list of enemies hunting for payback. This theory leans heavy on 6ix9ine's notorious past as a former 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods member who flipped on the crew in 2019, locking in that snitch label that stuck to him ever since. His own words about the streets make it even messier. He compared himself to fallen rappers, making the ruthless claim that so-called solid street credibility means nothing if you end up 6 feet under. That's where another theory comes in hot. Some believe the bullets weren't even meant for Ariela at all. They were meant for 6ix9ine.
I respect gangsters, bro. But you gonna see me, you gonna respect me.
Hold on, let me break something down to you, right?
I don't even mean to change the mood, but 6ix9ine, we all know about the perception.
Rumors swirl about gang vendettas and old street ties from his past catching up, with Ariela tragically caught in the middle. This angle only gained more traction after his emotional Instagram tribute, where he called her his sister. Despite whispers of a romance, the intensity and timing of those posts had people speculating he was carrying guilt that maybe his name, his enemies, or his past painted a target on her back. But this story doesn't come without holes. Remember, by 2025, 6ix9ine was locked down under strict probation, house arrest, and an ankle monitor. Any move to New York would have been a straight-up violation, meaning it's unlikely he was physically there with Ariela when she got hit. That contradiction has sparked even more questions about what role he really played and whether his shadow, not his presence, was the reason her life got cut short. Or maybe the hit wasn't about him being there at all. Maybe it was symbolic, striking someone close to 6ix9ine as a brutal message. A third theory blowing up online pushes an even darker angle. that Ariela was killed for allegedly feeding info to authorities about criminal activity in her circle. This informant narrative mirrors 6ix9ine's own cooperating witness past.
Yo, bro.
I'm gonna be honest.
Alpo. We gonna get on Alpo. Yo, shout out my girl, baby. I love you. Listen, I gotta talk about it. I gotta bring it up. I'm sorry if I put, but I'm about to fire Harlem up. My girl's baby father, Charlie C, is a Mac Ball of blood.
Okay, what that mean?
He's a Mac Ball of blood that Jack kill all rats. The Mac Ball Jack kill all rats.
Suggesting she might have followed the same path and paid the ultimate price. What makes this even wilder is how it lines up with his own public stance on snitching. In the footage we've seen, 6ix9ine makes it crystal clear. He views cooperating with law enforcement as pure survival, not some moral weakness. And if that's the energy he was preaching to people close to him, who's to say it didn't rub off on Ariela too? That possibility is exactly what makes this theory so explosive, even without hard proof from official sources. Street justice has always come down hard on anybody suspected of betrayal, and this angle fits right into that brutal history. Some even link her death to the wider wave of gang-related violence tearing through New York at the time, including a wild Brooklyn nightclub shooting with 4 shooters unloading 42 shells, all confirmed to have gang ties by the NYPD commissioner. Put all that together, and Ariela's murder looks less like random chaos and more like part of a deadly chain reaction. With Mayor Adams rolling out crisis teams to stop the cycle of retaliation, the streets can't help but connect dots, even though there's no confirmed link between Ariela's death and that wave of violence. The timing alone has fueled speculation that her tragedy might have been part of a bigger pattern, where her personal ties overlapped with the city's bloodiest street politics. This also highlights the perception problem 6ix9ine has carried for years. Why go after him directly when he's under constant federal surveillance, when hitting someone close to him could send the same chilling message? That twisted logic explains why Ariela's name ended up at the center of so many whispers, with her death framed as collateral in battles meant for him. What makes the whole case even murkier is the silence from officials. No breakdown of how many shots were fired, no clear sequence of events, no forensic details, nothing. That void of hard facts has turned into the perfect breeding ground for conspiracy theories, wild rumors, and clashing narratives flooding social media and hip-hop blogs. So the question still hangs heavy: what really went down? As we dive into the investigation around Ariela Langosta's death, the official story keeps bumping up against the street talk, leaving us with 2 very different versions of the truth. What we're seeing now is law enforcement scrambling to handle a high-profile case while juggling the chaos that comes with 6ix9ine's explosive reputation and the non-stop public fascination tied to his name.
Oh, Harlem don't hide and be like, I wasn't at that baby shower. If I would have seen, I was at that baby shower drinking rosé.
I ain't gonna even lie.
Oh,
Also,
listen.
let me get spicy real quick. See, my whole thing is like this, man. On some real, I ain't trying to be funny or nothing, Jim Jones, but you keep shouting Mel and shouting them out.
The deeper you look, the clearer the complexity gets, especially when you hear 6ix9ine break down how street beefs really play out in the real world. In one revealing clip, he explains why so-called gangster loyalty usually ends not in respect, but in an early grave. That point hits harder when you remember the shocking detail that Alpo Martinez, a notorious figure, was at 6ix9ine's own baby shower before his death. It proves how messy these circles are, where snitching or cooperating doesn't automatically kill connections, but instead creates contradictions so dangerous they can turn fatal.
You know what I mean? Because now it's just putting you back in the spotlight as telling again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it just won't stop. What's next?
Now, I don't with 6ix9ine whatsoever, but
Why not?
domestic violence, you know why. Domestic violence is domestic violence.
Right now, the investigation into Ariela's death is in the hands of both the NYPD and Westchester County Police, officially treating it as a suspicious homicide. Westchester Police Chief James Luciano even admitted investigators believe the shooting was tied to criminal activity, though he kept the details sealed tight. That official word alone gives weight to the idea that Ariela's death wasn't random, but a targeted strike.
Yo, wait, let me ask y'all a question. Let me ask the OGs a question. Was Mel Murder running around with Treyway? Well, I mean, was Mel Murder running around with Jim Jones in 2009? Was Mel Murder running around Jim Jones when he was doing bowling?
Yeah.
He was, right?
What's even crazier is what still hasn't come out. No suspects named, no arrests, no clear motive, nothing. As of August 18, 2025, the silence leaves a dark cloud hanging over the case, making the mystery deeper, the theories louder, and the truth harder to pin down. For a case drowning in media attention and street gossip, the lack of official progress has people wondering, are investigators being overly cautious, or are they up against obstacles nobody's talking about? Even the way Ariela was discovered adds layers of mystery. Around 8 a.m., she was found slumped in a vehicle on the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon, with reports saying she'd been shot in the head. But the fine details, the number of shots, the type of weapon, the sequence of events are still being kept in the dark. What makes it even stranger is the setting itself. The Cross County Parkway isn't some hidden back alley. It's a major artery linking the Bronx to Westchester, packed with traffic and watched by surveillance. For a shooting to go down there without clear witnesses or immediate camera footage suggests either a lightning-fast ambush or a hit so carefully planned that the shooters knew exactly when and where the blind spots were. One of the biggest twists in piecing this case together is tied to 6ix9ine's movements that day. Despite endless speculation that he was riding with Ariela when she got taken out, his probation in 2025, complete with house arrest and electronic monitoring, makes it almost impossible he was in New York without being flagged instantly. That contradiction raises the question, if he wasn't physically there, then why does his shadow loom so large over this murder? This clash between wild speculation and cold legal reality forces us to rethink a lot of the theories running the streets about this case. If 6ix9ine wasn't even physically present, then any theory of him being the intended target gets way more complicated. It would mean either symbolic strike meant to send a deadly message or a mistaken identity play where the shooters thought he'd be there. But here's the piece most people overlook: the non-stop cycle of violence and threats that surrounded 6ix9ine ever since he flipped and cooperated with the feds. That chilling fake casket delivered to his Florida home in February 2025 with rival King Von's name plastered on it proves the threats weren't empty. They were constant and personal. The deeper you dive into his mindset about survival and street codes, the clearer it gets why people would target those close to him. His take on the Alpo situation was especially revealing. He wasn't afraid to call out hypocrisy in the rap game, even if it meant burning bridges and stacking enemies. That same confrontational energy that kept him relevant also made him a walking bullseye. And here's the kicker: if Ariela was tied to him in any way, that alone could have put her in the crosshairs. Even if 6ix9ine wasn't there the morning she was gunned down, her association with him might have been enough for enemies to use her as a message, proving that being in his orbit was dangerous in itself. This kind of proxy violence, hitting associates instead of going straight at the main target, has become a regular play in today's street wars, especially when the real target is too protected or too risky to touch. A no-jumper host even weighed in, breaking down how the culture views 6ix9ine's non-stop cooperation streak and what it spells for anyone tied to him. The point is clear: his pattern of running to law enforcement isn't a one-off. It's widely known in the hood. That reputation alone can make anybody in his circle a target for those who see snitching as the ultimate betrayal. Add to that his confrontational personality, how he openly challenges anyone questioning his choices, and you see why being linked to him was dangerous. He doesn't just defend himself, he flips the script, questioning other people's street credibility while exposing his own vulnerabilities at the same time. That contradiction is exactly what makes him both polarizing and toxic to stand next to in the streets. Then there's the timing of his emotional tributes to Ariela. They came while he was already under a legal microscope. With sentencing looming in September 2025 after pleading guilty to drug charges in July, every move he made was risky. Any public statement, especially something that could be spun as an admission or trigger more law enforcement heat, was playing with fire. And yet, he still jumped in with words that only pulled more attention to himself. This leaves us with two possibilities. Either 6ix9ine's emotions broke through his usual caution, or he felt pressured to speak out for reasons bigger than grief alone. Some say his tributes were meant to distance himself from any whispers of involvement, while others believe they were raw expressions of loss from a man who's had very few people he could actually trust in this game. The community response has been overwhelming. Both Icon New York and Starlets, the venues where Ariela made her mark, posted heartfelt tributes on Instagram, calling her a shining star remembered for her joy and humility. The Dominican community in New York and far beyond also poured out love, with fans flooding Ariela's Instagram page with condolences, turning her profile into a living memorial. But as we stand here now, the biggest questions remain unanswered. What we do know is simple but chilling. On August 17, 2025, Ariela Langosta was found shot inside her vehicle on the Cross County Parkway, and authorities are treating it as a targeted hit tied to criminal activity. With no arrests and no motive confirmed, the case stays wide open, and the truth is still hiding in the shadows. Make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like this video so you don't miss the next big update on this unfolding story.